care. I don't care.
T-34-85 tanks are now ready for use.
The alignment's not that good.
Our T-34s have been outfitted with 85mm guns. We will follow their tracks to victory. Engineers have secured the sector.
This is gonna go down as the low-budget Star-Crossed Cup. My tournaments never have very high production value, but this one is, like, gonna be the lowest of them. Even Star-Crossed Cup 1 probably had a little bit more, like, production value to it. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the players. We've got Tomakaze versus Crazyman again. We're going into Game 2. As you can see, Crazyman has 286 victory points banked. He has won the first game. Tomakaze has chosen Oster, and Crazyman has chosen Soviets. So we will see neither of the factions that we saw in Game 1. No Brits, no Over Commando West. It's completely classic factions. We've got an MG42 and 2 Grens out. Fight against a 3 conscript opening. Just regular old conscript opening. You don't see that too much these days. Oh, he messed that up. He had just stuck around for like a hair longer. Would have had those munitions coming in. Usually people go with Tier 1 or Tier 2, especially on a map of this size. I think Tier 1 would be very appealing. Get the scout car out, get a little more mobility. Crazyman's just going to go with 4 cons opening.
We have more conscripts at our disposal.
Alright, now my coffee's done. I'll be right back. All of these bios.
Our territory is falling into enemy hands.
German machine gun.
We are in contact. Comrades, we have now installed a field hospital at headquarters.
This tournament is brought to you by my wife. This morning she was getting me up at 7:30, which is far too early to be waking up on a weekend. She said, Romeo, have to get out of bed. Your check-ins are in 30 minutes. And I said, just cancel the tournament. Just tell everybody I'm sick. I'm not getting out of bed. Like, you have to get out of bed. So I said, okay, I'll get out of bed, and that's why the tournament is happening. So shout out to Romeo's wife.
The enemy is attempting to steal our sector.
I know I make the check-ins really early, and I know that is brutal for West Coast players. I don't even know how West Coast players or Pacific players in general could participate. It amazes me that Korean Army has ever played in my tournaments.
Now you can use Molotovs to burn those bastards.
But I know that a very healthy percentage of the community is European. And I don't want them to have to stay up super duper late at night, and I would rather people be tired at the beginning than at the end. I want people's energy to grow as the tournament goes on, not diminish. So I just feel like it's just the best option.
rifles, interrogation training, and
Got some chocolate sauce in my coffee today. I deserve to treat myself.
We are targets! Wall of fire!
Good map control with the 4 cons opening. It's a very map control oriented opening.
Fresh guards
He's working the flanks, he's getting the harassment going, and Tomakaze is struggling to hold the line, but that's normal, I think. As Ostera against 4 cons, you just kind of slowly need to work your way out. And that is what he's doing, trying to support those machine guns with his Grens. Double MG can be a bit risky. Can be a bit risky against infantry spam. It's hard to micro them correctly and effectively. Keep them pointed at enemy infantry. Don't let them get flanked. You got to be paying attention to both of them at all times. Trying to use them efficiently. You can't really just camp in a building with them, or your opponent will just go around you and take all the map, and you can't move them too much or too, you know, recklessly, or they'll just get swarmed and flanked and charged. And if you let your opponent have a machine gun, it can be game-ending. It can be devastating. Once there's guards out and conscripts with Molotovs, any infantry squad coming up behind you could mean you lose that machine gun. So you've got to be very careful.
I can feel my leg. What? The enemy has us flanked! Down, enemies! I need a medic! Attack! They're killing us!
Enemy forces are securing our territory.
They're trying to flank us! MG, keep your heads down!
Successful flank on one machine gun forces it to retreat. The other one seems to be fine, but it is very unsupported. Molotov can't be thrown quite that far, though. So it should win the engagement, as long as the conscripts don't stand up, which I don't think they will be able to.
Scheiße! They are shooting! Contact! Enemy machine gun! Running will not save you! Killing the enemy will!
They're just giving that machine gun free veterancy at this point. They need to get out of there. Machine gun will spot them coming because of this point being decapped, and he retreats preemptively. So, joke's on me. They don't need to get out of there. They're going to be fine.
The enemy is taking what we have secured.
Grenadiers working on the North fuel once again. Soviet fuel advantage quite strong. 9 minutes in, Crazyman's already got his T-70 on the way. And triggers a map flare. Flare mine.
We are ready for action.
That flank was so obvious, he could have just reset up. I guess he could have, but he would have had to retreat anyway. The three-man squad would have stood up and thrown a Molotov at him or something.
To leave these sandbags.
He was totally unsupported. There probably was no way to win that with just a machine gun. G43s on the Grens should give them the advantage against conscripts. Both double vet. Vet 3 conscripts are quite strong now, though. That random mortar shell
Supply sector under attack.
takes out most of the squad. Grenadiers force everything to retreat and will start working the right side. The T-70, however, has found some targets mid and is forcing all of these Grens back to base. Machine gun is going to have to think carefully about how to handle this. Maybe he'll pop AP rounds. Wouldn't matter anyway. The T-70 is just going to circle strafe him. The mortar and machine gun are both in grave danger. There is an AT gun out. There's the first shot. Uh-oh, he has to be careful. His pathing is a little awkward here. But he will get cleared. Friends don't quite get close enough for the Faust, but that was actually kind of a close call.
We have 300 points remaining. The enemy is taking our territory.
Grenadiers reporting.
The enemy has driven a wedge in our lines.
Are they in the wrong starting locations? I don't think it matters that much on this map. I wouldn't make them regame, honestly. That used to matter a lot more, especially on maps like Langrskaya. It is in the rules, the starting locations are in the rules, but if both players are fine with the outcome of the game, then I don't see any reason to make a big deal out of it.
The enemy has taken our supply sector.
Molotov out on the MG42.
We need to re-establish our supply lines.
What's most important is that they use the same positions in both games. Allies were south in the first game, so it makes more sense to just be consistent, really.
Troops ready for action.
Tier 4 going up in the base.
Supplies to the enemy.
Tomakaze manages to stop the victory point drain at 208. Even if he does manage to win this game, he is now behind. Crazyman has secured himself faction selection, even if he loses. But well played by Crazyman, good milestone to hit.
Okay, that's the last one.
Enemy forces are attempting to capture our territory. Vehicles can be marked and targeted. Enemy forces are neutralizing a sector.
Our comrade has fallen. Make it quick. We will not forget his sacrifice.
G43 is holding the line on the victory point. They will lose that, though. Grenade into the retreat path. He does react, but not quite so poorly that it costs him his squad. So off he goes. Guards working on the VP, trying to put additional pressure on Tomakaze to try and defend the left side.
The enemy is encroaching on our
Once Tiftlecker, actually you can win with an annihilation victory. If you swarm mediums into your opponent's base and destroy all the structures, you do win the game. It's extremely unusual for players to do that in a tournament setting. I'm not sure I've ever seen that happen, in fact, in a competitive game. But in theory, one could do that. Now I'm racking my brain. I feel like that must have happened at least once. I just don't remember it.
We have 200 points remaining.
It is always an option, and probably easier to do against Oster than Oberkommando West, since Oberkommando West has their tech structures are actually out on the map and more likely to be protected by their forces. So you can't really backdoor Oberkommando West the way you might be able to Oster. Backdooring is kind of a MOBA term, but it basically means trying to sneak high damage units into the base, or, you know, into a position to destroy critical defensive positions of your opponent. These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. Fun fact, I actually hosted a tournament series called Violent Ends, because of that exact quote. But it was a Grey Goo tournament, so I'm sure nobody here saw it. I thought Violent Ends was a cool name for a tournament. Squad wipe in the middle. Panzer IV is on the way. T-34 is also on the field. T-34-85, rather. There's Paul. Oh, Paul. Why didn't you check into my tournament? My number 2 seed didn't even get out of bed. A little bit of quiet time. Tomakaze makes a play mid once again, trying to stop this triple cap. He's bleeding VPs fast. He doesn't have a lot of time to get himself back out on the field. His Panzer IV is up. So he has the tools, in theory, to survive now. And he's actually winning for PopCap quite strongly. I mean, just look at this army for Crazyman. It looks pretty small compared to Tomakaze's forces. So we could be looking at a comeback here as long as Tomakaze can keep those victory points under control.
We are losing territory. The enemy has 100 points remaining.
There's a box in the middle because there's a missing ABP. Obviously. Heavy mortar called in, as well as some guards getting his float down. Still a little bit behind in the manpower game, though. The move-out command is bracket singular. Thank you, Vipix. I know I should have the URL whitelisted, but I haven't set that up. T-34 moves to try and support the T-70, which is in danger. Panzer IV is not getting the hits it needs, but the T-34 is not going to chase either, so he should be okay. Goes for one last shot, doesn't penetrate, and just kind of bouncing off of one another. T-34 comes out on top of that engagement, though. The T-70 does have secure mode because he's Vet 1. I think that's a Vet 1 ability. So he's going to harass the VPs and get the bleed going again. Won't take... Oh, Panzerfaust hits the ground. I really wish that they would change that. Panzerfaust hits the ground. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, though. He would have had to get 2 off to damage the engine. That does rather add insult to injury. Normally you do need infantry, but the T-70 has a special secure mode, which does allow it to capture points. It has to be Vet 1 to activate it, though, I believe. AT guns get cleared. Clearing the way for the T-34 to try and push up a little bit, but he's afraid of the Panzerschreck squad standing back here. He doesn't want to get too close, so he just focuses down this machine gun. Molotov over the shrubs onto the other machine gun. Both of them in danger of being cleared. That one is not retreating. But it's not quite dead yet either. There it goes. Finally cleared by flanking conscripts moving up from the south. Panzerschreck squad drops the Panzerschreck, and that's going to be 2 Panzerschrecks handed over to the conscripts. Should he pick them up? I'm not sure he's noticed, though. He will actually retreat. A lot of team weapons being stolen here by Crazyman, and while it looked like Tomakaze may be able to make a comeback, those hopes have been dashed as all of the Axis weaponry is switching over to the Soviet side. Tomakaze is left only with a machine gun, 2 infantry squads, a damaged Panzer IV, and a fresh Stug. Hi Tycho, the tournament's going well. We have only just barely kicked it off. You're here just in time for game 2 of the very first series of the day that I'm streaming anyway. Crazyman's next assault may decide the game. He has all the tools he needs to drastically overwhelm his opponent. He does recover the Panzerschreck with a spare conscript squad, so he's got 2 Panzerschrecks, a pack, and an MG42. Stug makes a very deep dive right here, gets marked, and will be destroyed just about instantaneously by the swarming T-34s. The Panzer IV also, without any help, is going to get picked up here. And that will pretty much be the game. Congratulations to Crazyman, who is going to advance to round 3. And I have not checked the brackets, but I'm not sure who his opponent is going to be. Let's see. Oh, Nagano. Nagano has defeated Pompeii, which means he is going to be Crazyman's opponent. I'm going to put Crazyman's score in right now. 0. Well played, Crazyman, and good luck in your match against Nagano. With that, I think I'm going to switch gears a little bit and see if maybe I can catch Cruz versus